better question is, where does the divine self live? Because this is a living, breathing, sentient being. It is celestial. It lives in a realm of perfection that is just as real and in its own way as tangible, and where it suits the convenience of the God presence. Form can be there just as it can be here. This is not a place you'll ever find in three-dimensional space. That's a little hard to understand, but Jesus had to try to say it too. He said the kingdom of heaven is within. And that is where this God presence lives. We're so habituated for so many hundreds of lifetimes in turning our attention out, away from the heart, from the point of center of the heart, that we have mistakenly come to think that this three-dimensional world that's reported by our five physical senses is all that is. And until we re-enter this world of the real and are able to take advantage of spiritual senses that are similar to but not identical with the five physical senses, and most especially the sensitivity of the heart flame, we won't have the feedback for knowing where that divine self lives. The comforting news is that as we do restructure our thinking and actually come to know that fundamentally we are this God self, and that where that God self is, necessarily we are there already, that we are wherever the life of that God presence flows, wherever it puts its attention and its heart flame, there we are, including at the point of center of that heart. So our presence is where its heart is, centered in that individuality at inner levels.
The question you might have is, how do you reach that God presence, that divine self? Because if the presence of God, your own divine true self, is in a realm of perfection that is not necessarily represented to you as much of this outer world in which you live, it would lead you to think that God is separate from you, and that there is somehow a duality of self, for you're living out here and God is in this realm of perfection, and never the twain shall meet. Well, this is not true. For God really is on the altar of your heart. And that is why when you go within, you go into the depths of the wholeness of God that is your true identity, and ultimately you are able to touch the allness of God. For not only is there the individualization of God that is your mighty I Am presence that you reach by entering in through the altar of your heart, but there is that allness of God that is in the I Am as well. So those who have had these vast experiences of feeling themselves a part of all that is, looking onto a blade of grass and feeling that oneness even with the blade of grass, they have entered into momentarily that oneness with their mighty I Am presence, and ultimately the allness of God. And that is how that experience could have happened. You are not a separate self from the nature of God. Perhaps the outer self has thought it was, and it has certainly tried to usurp that role of the divinity that it recognized in the I Am. But the human ego is not the divine ego, not the divine will, but is that outer vehicle that you will come to know more about as you study and learn more of this teaching of the I Am faith. Won't you listen on as we reveal more of that nature of how you can be the presence of your mighty I Am right where you are, and not in a state of duality of the not self or the outer self versus the divine self.